spiritual essence filling the vessel of our sanctuary. And as we joined our waters together, let's join our forces together to reflect the living nature of our church. Please join us in the covenant. We are a people of faith and hope. Together we covenant to strive to become our better selves, to honor both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to respond to systems of violence and oppression with the power of a love beyond belief. And now, we all get to join together in the happy and rising tides of interdependent chaos we call the greeting time. Now, as we flow together, please keep others in mind and respect their desires for physical interaction, lest they drown in your emotional exuberance to get with them. And when the music begins, we ask that the tides of happiness recede back to your seats so that we might continue our voyage together. Hug, shake hands, bow, fist bump, let the waves of greeting wash over all of us.
A little over 20 years ago, this day changed all of our lives forever. Join with me for a moment to remember the lives of those who were lost on 9/11, the lives of those who went to save other lives that were lost on 9/11, the lives of those who went to fight over decades of 2 wars and more. And with realism and loving kindness, not false sentimentality or ignoring harsh truths of our world, but aspiring for a world where we live together in peace. I invite you, if you are able, and if you can't, it's okay. Remember all of the lives lost on every side around this globe. And the ongoing conflict that has unfolded from that day. Join me in silence. Clemson spoke about our tears. He knows something about tears, as do we all. May our tears of grief and tears of rage and tears of longing make this a better world for us all. Thank you, everyone. Circle around the earth. Have you ever seen a snake coiled, ready to strike? That snake is trying to tell you something. I bet everybody here knows exactly what the snake is saying when it pulls back the springs of its body, those muscles so tight, and lets you know it's got a lot of potential energy here and it could come towards you. What is the snake saying? Say it loud, Doug, the environmentalist. Say it for us. Stay back, get back. Don't come any closer. My son and I were hiking. Now, hang on just one second. In case you're thinking, oh my God, another backpacking story. It's just the setup. We're just the hero twins to set up the story about the rainbow serpent, right? So we're going to move right past that. My son and I were beginning the ascent up Table Rock in Table Rock State Park, very close to us. You can all go, and you should leave right now and go because it's going to be better than this sermon, right? We were headed out for several days together. And you leave the parking lot and walk up this winding trail to climb, and you don't even notice because descending beside you is just the most beautiful crystalline mountain water pouring down the side of the mountain in waterfall after waterfall after waterfall, stopping to go deep into beautiful pools that you can swim in and lose your breath in and bathe under pouring waterfalls, better than any massage you could ever pay for. So beautiful. And he and I were striking out on a July morning that saw, it must have been hundreds of our fellow human beings winding their way like one long serpentine form up the mountain to splash around in the water and to enjoy the woods. A beautiful summer morning before the heat and humidity and yellow jackets came to remind us that it was July. And as we got to a beautiful stream crossing, seeing if there were hundreds of people, then 200s of feet going back and forth through, a group of grubby-looking old guys, looked a lot like Harold Hatcher in that picture right there, had formed a little circle right at the edge of the water and the trail. Just a little circular shape. And everybody was having to walk around them to go up the trail or to get in the water. And we came walking up and they said, oh, are you guys going out for a while? We said, yeah, and we talked about our plans. And they said, that's great, just come on around this way. And we said, what's up? And they said, well, there is this beautiful copperhead right here at the edge of the water. It's warming up in the summer morning, but all the tourists got here before it could get out. And we're out here working on the trail, and we're just trying to get it warmed up and moved out of here before somebody gets hurt, or more likely, somebody hurts it. These guys out to do whatever they were going to do. And if they were anything like Mr. Hatcher, they were down to business, and stopping to coax a snake into the woods was not part of their agenda when they began that morning at 4 o'clock or whenever they got up. These guys forming a circle around a snake that was saying, don't get any closer. Knowing that snake needed to live. And so did that long snaking line of human beings need to live. And they had a job to do to help that snake live in its wildness, to get into the mountains that are its home, where it belongs, where it can live the fullness of its wild life. And that the people, also part of the wildness, even if we've forgotten, needed to be in those mountains too, to remember more of who we really are in the world that we belong to. And they needed to make it happen for everybody. You know the story of the rainbow serpent. Her name, his name, Their name, depending on who you're talking to in Australia, from all of the Aboriginal groups, there are many different names. Wanjani, Wanampi, Nagalyod, Goryala, he, she, they, their names change, and they have stories from every part of Australia. This rainbow serpent reminds me actually a lot of this place. Lots of different names and genders and stories. It wouldn't be bad if this place was a little reflection of the Aboriginal wisdom of those people in Australia who've been there for thousands and thousands of years. But they all tell stories about the rainbow serpent. Ethnologists think these stories may have emerged when sea levels began to rise at the end of the last ice age. And that as groups that found themselves inhabiting that space encircled by water, symbolic of a great serpent itself, as they moved inland to adjust to their new environment, they had to learn to cope with each other, to share resources, to share water, especially when it was scarce. And that these stories developed as a way for them to comprehend the world they were living in, and they're deep interconnected with each other, even when they were in competition with each other, to find a way to live in the wildness of that place as many people in one world. And the stories go that at the beginning of time, which is always, not only in the deep past, but happening right now too, everything was dreaming. Everything was in a dream. And if you enter into your dream, you are bringing something into reality. The dream is not prior to reality. And it's not in our past, it is alive right now. And in that dreaming, there was a great emptiness, a great stillness, a vast, undifferentiated land of blood-red sand, from which emerged the first dreamer, the rainbow serpent, moving across that landscape, carving the landforms, creating space not only for itself, out of the immensity of its body, but a space of possibility for all beings, all life. Channels and ocean beds and mountains, all of those things to which life could one day cling, and against which clouds could one day move and drop the plenitude of their rainfall. An immense creator being of possibility for us all. And that being in its loneliness sang into being water-bearing siblings who could create a more active possibility from which life could blossom, and seed-bearing siblings that could actualize the potentiality of water into oxygen and a verdant world and food and two-leggeds, four-leggeds, crawling and sliding and swimming beings to fill an entire world. Great rainbow being, serpent, who emerged from the dream of this world to make it possible for us all in its very wildness. And when there were people, and when rain began to fall, two brothers found themselves without shelter. There, in that immense, evolving landscape, in the pouring rain, they went from hut to hut, from person to person, and said, "Can we have shelter? And as we have heard in other stories from sacred traditions, the innkeeper said, "We're full." And the brothers went looking for home until they came to the great serpent herself. And they said, "We have no place for shelter." And the serpent, of course, in her immense benevolence and love and wildness and care for all beings and desire for the well-being of all beings, said, "Take shelter inside my mouth." This is a moment when we say, don't try this at home. Whatever you're experiencing, I encourage you not to seek shelter in the mouth of a snake. But the brothers did. And they found shelter until in their slumber in the pouring rains, the serpent became forgetful and accidentally swallowed them. See, don't do it, right? She didn't mean to. It wasn't her intent. It was her being. And they found themselves being digested. The serpent that had brought the world into fullness was horrified at what had happened and slithered off in shame, bearing these brothers in her belly, agonizing over what to do. And in some places where her name is one, they say she found a way to constrict her muscles to bring the brothers back up, a kind of childbearing image, bringing the boys back into the living world. In another place where her name is different, and she is he or they, two other brothers come and perform what amounts to a cesarean section and open the belly of the serpent up so the brothers can emerge and the serpent still lives. The brothers come back into life. And as hard as their passage has been, they emerge more evolved than they were before, certainly wiser, but twinned as heroes to carry that life-giving energy that the serpent has made evident in all of her deeds, now embodied also in them, to be shared from her wildness into their wildness, from her care for the world, multiplying into their care for the world also. And so we see we have a lot to share. We all are people of wildness. We all have parts of our being that are hard to understand, that we may sometimes feel shame about, that sometimes may cause harm, even when we don't mean it. Parts of our shadow, parts of our deep self, parts we may not even be aware of fully, but that are a deep, deep part of us. Just to give an example, while you think about yourself, for me, this is my creativity and my anger. There is a part of me that is profoundly creative, like to drive everybody else flat out mad. I cannot look at anything without thinking about all the things it could become. Right? Lord, save my children from myself and all the possibility I see in their lives. They have to determine their own life. I'm just there to support them. But holy cow, can I imagine futures for them? Right? May they find shelter, though may it not be in the mouth of a snake. And when something is not right, when something is off, when someone is causing harm to someone else, when people aren't slowing down to talk, holy cow, do I get mad, get angry. During the pandemic, I expressed some of this, and it scared some folks, and I get it, because I have trouble working with this, these parts of my wildness. I can't just spill it out on the world. I'm part of the living web of life that is us. And I have to find ways to own this about myself and to share it in a way that makes life for you too. I deserve to live and to be my full self. And you do too. And when these parts of ourselves that are so deep, so deep in us, and around which we have often felt shame, been told we shouldn't be that way, keep it in check. Can't you be different? Be like your preacher dad. Whatever other junk we've been told. When people get a little too close to that part of ourselves, don't you just want to strike? Get back. Don't get so close to me. We are wild. And we do not want to be hurt. And this is part of our deep beauty. This is part of the goodness of the created world. It is a part of us that belongs in the world. It is exactly the part of us that can bring life. And we need friends who circle around us to help us not strike when we don't need to strike. And help others know to give us space so that we can share this wild world with them. That's what our visioning process is in this church right now. We gather to tell stories about what we long for this church to be, and to remember what we have loved in this place or other places, things deep inside of us. And part of the reason that we do it is that none of us have the same memories. Some of us have memories of this place when there were 20 people at a different location. And that was a different kind of congregation to which we are all beholden, which we all need, which is not who we are now. And some people remember when we were 40 people. That was twice as many. That is, what percent growth is that? 100% growth? Please forgive my math. Not my wildness. And 60 and 80 and 100 and 120 and now 186. And at every phase there is life-giving energy that evolves and changes. And we have gained so much when we were there in it, that when somebody comes crashing in with an idea that comes from another phase in the church's life, it can feel like, get back. That's not how we did things. That's not how we should do things. You're not reading the right book. You didn't read the right articles. You grew up so-and-so, and now this is so-and-so. Are you Unitarian or Universalist, or what are you, right? Tribes and tribes of people on a continent surrounded by water with rising tides, and we have to learn to live together on it, to share our wildness. And sometimes, even when we're trying to do our best, we swallow each other. We didn't mean to hurt each other. But life in the world has danger in it. Sometimes we bite when we didn't even mean to. But there is good news. This is a place where even when you've been swallowed, you can come back out. And this is a place where when we've bitten each other, we talk to each other about biting. And we say, we don't bite here. And let's learn to give each other shelter and help each other have shelter so that your wildness and my wildness doesn't have to be ashamed or hidden, but can thrive here. Who you are deep inside you, the thing that other people called shadow and tried to tell you should not be who you are, it can live here. It is meant to thrive. And let this be an example, this snaking exhibit of images. Images that wrestle with what gender is and what it means to be masculine. Images made by every kind of person on the gender spectrum. images that wrestle with being men and women and trans and non-binary, images that are in conversation with each other and that move around each other, images that have wrestled with each other for hours and for weeks. May there be shelter for the team and the artists who have put this together. They are exhausted from the effort, and they have done it. And they invite further comment from you. A beautiful effort to wrestle with the fullness of our being, trying not to bite each other, trying not to swallow each other, trying to find home for all of our wild selves in this place. Beautiful and dangerous work. And at the heart of it all, in this little drawing by one of the leaders in our congregation, Faith, there is a serpent, a rainbow serpent in the sign of infinity, a serpent that holds its tail in its mouth, the Ouroboros, an eternal circle of possibility and movement to create a world where we can all live. When we bite each other, when our wildness accidentally swallows another of us whole, the story isn't over. Those brothers in the belly of the rainbow serpent, the great creator goddess, one way or the other, they emerge. And when those brothers emerge, hero twins emerging with the life-giving power of the serpent to share in the world through their own lives, they are the colors of the rainbow. They emerge the colors of the rainbow, adorned with feathers, to carry the rainbow full spectrum, life-giving water power of the serpent to the whole world. And when you see light pass through water in the sky, know that that is your calling too.
If you guys would like to sing along with this one, it's 163. Yes. For the earth forever turning, for the skies for every sea, for our lives, for all we cherish, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the mountains, hills, and pastures in their silent majesty, for the stars, for all the heavens, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the sun, the rain, and thunder,
Please join in our responsorial psalm as we extinguish our chalice today. And I'll read the bold. Please follow with the italics. If There Is to Be Peace by Lao Tse. If there is to be peace in the world, there must be peace in the nations. If there is to be peace in the nations, peace in the cities. If there is to be peace in the cities, if there is to be peace between neighbors, and if there is to be peace in the home,
We come from so many places. Different names, different stories, different ideas, different visions. Not only one source, but one great refracted beauty of all of our colors. A promise to the world of life.
Spend time together in these holy moments. Give us strength to go down the winding road until we meet again. We have spent time together in these holy moments. Give us strength